John looks at his phone in frustration and holds his hand to his chest. The numbers on the scoreboard are increasing. Refusals are being recorded at a new speed. The main character thanks the girls for their answers, because with their help, he can achieve his own goal. Reading all the messages, John thinks that all these refusals sound very cruel. Trying to recover from such insulting letters, he barely raises his head to look at something. He looks peacefully at the scoreboard with increasing numbers. The plan worked successfully. The main character imagines his social death. As he lies in a coffin with 100 white roses, he opens his eyes, returning to real life. Fantasizing, of course, is good. But today there is a lot more to do besides this. Anyway, John decides that the best option would be to apologize to the girls after refusing. Lying in a coffin again, the main character sends all his apology messages to his own victims. Noodles quickly runs towards his buddy, vigorously waving his arms and furiously shouting his name. The guy slowly turns his head towards his friend in order to understand what caused this reaction. Noodles attacks his friend, a fight breaks out, and the guys kick up dust from the floor. He squeezes Batten and asks why he confesses his love to his girlfriend. The guy is very disappointed, because he considered him a friend. John is shown a phone number with correspondence. He replies that he simply had the wrong address, and the message was not intended for her. Noodles feels intense rage. He doesn't understand why he didn't cancel the message if he made a mistake. The main character explains that he realized too late and cancellation was no longer possible. The guy receives a message. The girl reports that her friend also received a message from him. Probably Batten had the wrong address. A friend angrily asks him why more than 10 girls received his messages declaring his love. The main character is sweating from embarrassment and anxiety, trying to come up with an excuse. Noodles asks what's going on with his friend and how many girls he confessed his love to. John cannot tell him everything as it is, because it is quite difficult to believe. The friend continues to say that previously the hero was afraid of girls like fire, but now he writes himself, maybe he's crazy. Suddenly, the guy gets the idea to check whether refusals from male gender count, because initially he could have been gay. John decides that he should try it with his friend, in which case he will say that he is just joking. The guy lowers his head and begins to speak languidly and slowly, attracting attention to himself. He says that everything is exactly as his friend says. He is really crazy. But it's not just like that, it's love that turned John's head. The main character continues to say that he wrote to all these girls for a reason. The guy puts his hands on the shoulders of his friend, who looks at the current situation with confusion. John wrote to them so that everyone around him would think that he liked girls. He slowly moves closer to his friend's ear, and continues to whisper that his heart begins to beat faster at other moments. Noodles, with a frightened expression on his face, pushes his friend away, not understanding what happened to Batten. The guy admits that he was just pretending to be straight all the time and actually adores guys. The friend moves back, and at some point presses himself against the wall. He can no longer escape. John promises to be more affectionate with him than his girlfriend. The main character purses his lips and asks his friend to open his heart for him. Noodles quickly overcomes the obstacle made by his friend. He needs to escape. He bares his teeth and points a finger at John, shouting that he considered them friends, but now everything is ruined. The main character asks directly if they will kiss. Noodles shows him an obscene sign and sends him to hell. Looking at his scoreboard with numbers, the guy understands that this refusal was also counted, and now he has more options to earn points. Noodles doesn't understand whether he really is a representative of a non-traditional orientation, and asks not to disappoint him. John hugs his friend and says that if he doesn't want to kiss him, then they won't. They will remain friends. The guy admits that it was all just a prank. Then the friend is outraged by this. He attacks the main character and asks him to tell him what is happening to his friend lately. The hero explains that Noodles himself said to spread the net, so he did it to find the girl. John grabs his friend and asks him if he's disappointed in this and probably wanted his friend to be in love with him. He says that the joke is over and offers to treat him to lunch as an apology. Noodles says that considering the amount of food, he almost stopped being offended by him today. John decides that if rejections from guys count too, then he should make 100 at their expense. Chewing another delicacy, a friend asks the main character why he didn't even touch the food. Ignoring him, the guy sits on the phone and smiles maliciously, realizing that now he can cope with his mission much easier. Noodles snatches the phone from his hands, making a displeased face that his friend is not paying attention to him. Holding the gadget in his hands, he asks if his friend is spreading his networks in the messenger again. John aggressively tells him that he wants him to sit down and give him his phone back. Despite everything, Noodles looks at the burning screen of the gadget and sees a correspondence with the guy, which causes him to be shocked. The friend throws the phone aside and loudly asks the friend if he offers intimacy to men. People in the establishment turn around at these words. Noodles is very worried and asks his friend if he is gay or just stupid. John smiles awkwardly and says that he just lost his bet and now he needs to get 100 refusals. A friend says that this is not like him and it's hard to believe that this is possible. The main character boasts that he is already close to his goal, Noodles asks if he is afraid to confess to so many people. He replies that he is not scared at all, especially since no one reciprocated. The guy says that tomorrow he needs to go to the hated teacher again, and asks his friend if he has prepared a report. John receives more and more refusals. The numbers in his table grow. He answers that it is a work in progress. The number reaches 100, and now the main character gets plus 16 to his hand speed. Now, for him, preparing a report will be the easiest task because his hands move at a gigantic speed. The main character enters the workshop, taking with him a huge stack of papers in order to complete the entire work plan. John begins to remember all the dynasties of his family in order to help himself complete all the impossible work. Confidence and determination are visible on his face. The guy is confident in his own abilities and decides to start. He picks up some of the prepared papers to bring all his plans to life. The guy, with a quick movement of his hand, scatters all the sheets of paper through the air. The main character takes 2 pencils in one hand and decides that by increasing the number, he will also increase the speed. John jumps into the air towards the flying sheets, swinging his slate friends in their direction. He lists names and fills more and more paper with drawings every second. The main character depicts people popular in ancient times in their traditional costumes. Suddenly, the guy turns around and notices one of the sheets. With a grin on his face, he reaches his hand towards it. He grabs the paper with the suit's design on it, pulling it back towards him and returning it to its place. It depicts a luxurious girl in a festive outfit. Just as all the drawings for the report are ready, John lands on the ground. The leaves slowly fall, slightly balancing in the air and staggering. They lie randomly on the floor. Some are upside down, some are on the right side. The guy raises his hands up, rejoicing and exulting at the end of the work, which took much more time without his abilities. Plus 16 to hand speed can really work wonders. John quickly dealt with the Chinese part of the report, but he had not even started on foreign assignments. It would be desirable to cover Europe, ancient Egypt, India, and Japan. The time is already approaching 10 in the evening, and the couple starts at 8 in the morning. The main character clenches his hand into a fist and decides that he needs to push harder in order to finish what he started. The sun disappears behind the horizon, turning the sky pink and orange. Students go about their business. Some need to visit classes. Others came extra. John enters the academy building. The guy thinks that his finest hour will come very soon. His friend suddenly appears behind the main character, frightening him with a sharp movement and scream. Noodles asks where John was all night. His friend was worried that he didn't make a report and decided to commit suicide. The main character smiles widely and says that his friend has never been so mistaken. He approaches his friend and says that very soon he will be able to see and understand everything for himself. Julia orders everyone to take their seats, then asks the guys why they are smiling so suspiciously. The guys immediately calm down and take on neutral facial expressions, not daring to say a word more. The teacher asks his student, who promises to show a report in this class, to come up to her. The main character immediately jumps up from his seat and happily heads towards her. Noodles does not understand this joy. John thinks that these mere mortals do not even suspect that very soon they will witness a real miracle. He assumes that their conversation will be about Julia's task for the guy. Awkwardly, the guy corrects himself and says that he was preparing a report, while at the same time unfastening his backpack in order to get his work. The teacher closes his eyes and explains that the report will be discussed a little later, but for now there are other topics for discussion. Julia hands him the phone and asks him to read this message first in front of everyone. The main character picks up the gadget and, with great surprise on his face, discovers his message, which he sent to absolutely everyone. Now he realizes that yesterday he also sent this message to his teacher. Julia tells him that she has always considered him a decent student, but since he can afford to treat teachers this way, he will have to teach him a lesson. She asks John to read out loud the message he wrote. The guy blushes and wants to come up with an excuse. The teacher asks if he wanted to distract her attention from the report with this message. Everyone in the office is discussing the fact that they also received a confession from the main character. Noodles, hearing this, falls into shock. He thinks that his friend has gone crazy, as he assumed. The girls are discussing yesterday's message from their friend, if he even sent it to a witch. Then the confession must have come to all the girls they know. The guys also discuss the incident, thinking that the hero only confessed to the guys. Some laugh when they learn about these details, not expecting this from John. Some students think that the guy deserves it, hoping that the teacher will punish him to the fullest. Julia asks to confess if the main character did not complete the report, and these tricks should only be performed on his girlfriends. She continues to say that the punishment will serve as an example for others, because for failure to comply with the report, something awaits him. John dumps a stack of sheets of sketches on the table and asks to look at them, because everything is ready. The teacher is very surprised by what she heard. She begins to leaf through the sketches of costumes and does not understand how this is possible. The office begins to fill with noise with discussions about the behavior of the main character. Julia is surprised that John completed everything, and the drawings were done to a very high standard. There are at least 500 sheets of paper on the table. Even the Celestials couldn't have drawn them in 3 days. She assumes that someone obviously helped the guy. The teacher says that if the guy did it himself, then he needs to defend this report in front of everyone. The main character, with a confident expression on his face, agrees to do this, because he knows that this action will not cause him any difficulties. He begins to defend his project, first talking about Chinese outfits. A distinctive feature of women's outfits during a certain dynasty was that the skirt, dress, and mantle were one whole. The length of the sleeves was about 3/4 of the length of the arms. Next, John begins to talk about foreign outfits in medieval Europe. Monotonous clothing prevailed. Women wore dresses in black, white, or gray. The teacher and friend of the main character look at the performance with their mouths open and do not understand when he managed to do everything. Julia is perplexed why the guy confessed his love to her. Then apparently she underestimated the power of the hormonal surge in boys his age. Students are surprised by the success and excellent performance of their classmate. They praise him. With faces of delight and surprise, the guys begin to actively clap for Jonah. The teacher also sits with some delight the main character, finishing his speech, thanks everyone for their attention. The woman clears her throat and admits that the guy performed well, asking him to return to his place. John lowers his eyes, and since he is standing in front of everyone, he would like to explain about the messages. Julia is worried and hopes that the guy won't ask for her hand in marriage, like in snotty melodramas. He says that he just lost his bet, so most likely all his classmates, including the guys, received a message with a declaration of love. The teacher exhales with relief, lowering his eyes and smiling slightly. Julia says that she considers John a promising guy and also asks him not to get involved in such disputes anymore. He bowed low and asks to forgive him, promising to make amends to her. The long-awaited bell rings, people slowly pack their things into bags and get up from their seats. The main character doesn't care about this. He sits on his phone, doing something very important, from which he shouldn't be distracted. A friend comes up behind him and says that his friend shocked everyone today, and then asks how he managed to do everything. Without looking away from his device, John replies that his circles under his eyes speak for themselves. Noodles shakes his face, asking if his friend has made a deal with the devil. The main character says that he already has a headache from these interrogations. Now he needs to make amends to the guys. The friend was surprised by what he heard, and looks at the phone and asks what he will do to make this happen. He decides that the most correct and best option would be to send red envelopes in which he could put any amount from his wallet. Noodles is surprised by the money he sent, commenting on his friend's generosity. Suddenly, another notification comes that a new task has been created called a spender. To complete the task, you need to spend about 1 million. John was shocked by this amount. After completing the task, the achievement will be awarded and added, +1 to luck. The main character screams with indignation. Perhaps this is some kind of mistake. Upon completion of the task, he will have +1 for luck, and for each stage he will only be given points. It is not known what they will be good for. John looks disappointed at the fact that only 3,000 were spent, and a lot more resources are required to complete the task. He's very aggressive, shows an obscene sign to the table, and says that the system can go to hell with such tasks. The main character feels many emotions at once: disappointment, anger, and misunderstanding. His friend has been watching him from the side all this time. He asks what happened to his acceptance. The guy screams and says that he will hit Noodles in the face from the rush of emotions. Priyatya covers his friend's mouth, not allowing him to say another word. Noodles says that he got one of his friend's envelopes and then invites him to lunch. John smiles joyfully and draws attention to the fact that no one pulled the trigger on his friend, and he suggested it himself. The main character thinks that he should forget about the system for now, because now it is much more important to go and refresh himself. It has long been dark outside. Stars are visible in the clear sky. There is no light on in any window. Everyone is probably already going to bed. John is sitting at the computer, holding a packet of chips in his hands, looking at something in it. If he does not complete this task, it is unknown whether the system will issue the next one. If it doesn't work out, then for the rest of his life, this task will hang on him. 1 million in exchange for +1 for luck. It's not clear whether it's worth it. Fortunately, the guy was extremely pleased with improving his hand speed. Improving his luck could also be useful. But the question of where to get so much money remains open. The main character understands that if he does something, his mother will under no circumstances spare him. There is a huge pile of food on the table. A lot of chips, marmalade, drinks, and various sweets. You should act according to the situation. If within a couple of weeks the system does not issue another task, then John will return to solving this problem again. Noodles into the room, pokes his friend's phone. Now his friend is a celebrity. It turns out that in the last couple of days, he not only sent out a message with declarations of love, but also did it live in the library.